Well, hello everyone, and welcome in to a special edition of the RTI and VR2 Recruiting Podcast. I am Nathaniel Rutherford, the managing editor of RocketTopInsider.com, joined by both Matt Ray and Brandon Martin of VR2. And it is the special edition because, guys, it is the moment we've all been waiting for. It is early signing period week. We're recording this on Tuesday to get out in time for you guys to get everything ready, everything you need to know for the earliest signing period that starts on Wednesday. And it really looks like for Tennessee, all of the action is going to happen on Wednesday. Originally, one of Tennessee's targets, Morven Joseph, was going to be announcing on Thursday, but now he is going to be announcing on Wednesday as well. So everything for Tennessee looks like pretty much all the stuff will happen on Wednesday. You maybe have a commit or two, and the class kind of wait to sign until later in the week. But for the most part, guys, it's going to be a very, very busy Wednesday. You have stuff going from about 7 o'clock in the morning is when Donico Slaughter is announcing that he is going to be putting out his signature for Tennessee, all the way till about 4:30 is when I think 4 o'clock. So Morven Joseph's announcing. 4:30 is what I've seen. James Robinson said that he is going to be making his signature. So you've got kind of a whole day worth of stuff. It's really the earliest signing period. The first day of it has, to me, overtaken National Signing Day in February. I think you might as well rename the early signing period, the kind of the big one, the National Signing Day. So, guys, we got a lot to cover. But before we get into kind of the schedule of who else committing when, signing when, and kind of where we think for Tennessee, what that can mean for them, a couple of big pieces of news that came out on Tuesday, as before we recorded the podcast, and that's that 2 of Tennessee's top targets will not be signing this week after all. It looked like they're going to, and they're not going to, and that is 5-star Darnell Washington and 4-star Auburn commit Jay Hardy. Guys, I'll go to you first, Matt. How big of a deal is it for I'll ask you about Jay Hardy. How big of a deal is it that Jay Hardy is pushing back his signing date, and do you think Tennessee can work their magic and maybe get him to flip between now and February?
Yeah, I think the deal with Jay Hardy's a lot bigger than the deal with Darnell Washington. I felt like Darnell Washington, I feel like Tennessee did all they could do with Darnell Washington. Talked to several folks close to Georgia, and they still feel really good about their chances. If you remember last year with Jaden Hazelwood, he tried the same thing, but everybody knew what was going on within about 3 days' time. I think Darnell's probably trying to avoid that. But I think Darnell's had his mind set on Georgia for a while, and I still think that's where he ends up. If you follow our insider stuff, that's where I gave my prediction to over the weekend. No, I think Darnell's probably had his mindset on Georgia for a while. I think Tennessee timed everything really well, gave themselves the absolute best opportunity to pull it off. And I still think that he's going to end up in Athens. I think the timing of that may have to do with him not wanting the news to get out as much. That's my personal opinion on it. I don't have any source. That's my personal unbiased opinion on that. Looking at Jay Hardy, though, I think it is good news for Tennessee because they've been battling to keep him, to push it back. Auburn's been battling to get him to sign early. Obviously, Auburn was able to pull off the coup and get his commitment, but now Tennessee seems to have at least won a small battle here. I've talked to some folks around Chattanooga, and they expect Tennessee to make this a tight race going down the stretch. So I think it's really, really big for Tennessee to have a spot for Jay Hardy. I don't think Jay Hardy, a lot of people have varying opinions on this, but I don't think Jay felt like a priority at the time. Auburn was prioritizing him pretty heavily, and Ronnie Garner's a heck of a recruiter. But Tennessee's going to probably finish this period up with only spots for 2 or 3 guys, and that's going to give them the opportunity to make Jay feel like a priority. And can they get him back to that feeling where he wanted to be at Tennessee? I think they've got a good chance. So, yeah, I'm going to say it's big news for Tennessee on Jay Hardy. I think they have a chance to work some magic and pull off the flip there.
Brandon, you and I both, in Matt's absence over the last, I think, couple of podcasts, we both have been saying we want Darnell Washington, and we both have been kind of leaning towards Tennessee getting Darnell Washington. So now should we revolt against Matt here and say that he's wrong and that Tennessee is still going to get Darnell Washington?
It's going to be interesting to see because if it depends on what Darnell's doing. If Darnell is actually waiting until February to make his decision, then I think this is a big deal for Tennessee. If he's saying this so that the news quietens down and he can go be an early enrollee,
he will still make his announcement at the Under Armour game as scheduled. He just won't sign this week.
So it's going to be interesting. Is he worried about the news getting out? Is he going to sign and then not say anything? Is he telling everybody he's not going to sign and going to anyway? You don't really know. It's 18-year-old kids. Crazy stuff happens about this time of year in this situation. If Darnell doesn't sign, if he actually doesn't sign until February, I think it's big news for Tennessee, because if you're Tennessee, I do agree with Matt. I think Tennessee did everything right that they could do. You and I talked last week. This feels like the Quavaris Crouch recruitment a lot to me. It reminds me a lot of how Tennessee landed him. I think if this goes to February, it gives Tennessee a chance to keep working there. Tennessee feels good about their chances with Darnell, just like Georgia does. I know he was a Georgia lean for a long time. I know a lot of us felt that way. And I think Georgia is still the team to beat, but I think Tennessee's in a good spot right now, and extending this out probably helps them. And if Tennessee does what we all have kind of talked that we think they're going to do tomorrow, they're only going to have 2, maybe 3 spots left in this class, which means you can pour all your ammunition, all your manpower at landing 2 or 3 guys you really, really want and give them your undivided attention. I think that's going to be big too.
Yeah, and let's go ahead and get right into it, because we all were talking in the group chat beforehand about kind of who all we think Tennessee could land. We all kind of came to a consensus as far as, I think, the number of guys we expect, and maybe the same guys of all we expect. So here's a rundown of Tennessee's kind of realistic guys that are announcing, who have either included Tennessee as finalists, or who you Tennessee's been pretty involved with here in the last few weeks, especially. All the guys who are announcing on Wednesday. You have Len'neth Whitehead, who's supposed to be going at 8:30 a.m. Reginald Perry, who's supposed to be going at 9 a.m. These times are subject to change. These times are still somewhat unofficial in some of these guys, but this is what I've found. This is what a lot of times what the recruits have posted and stuff on their social medias too. Jimmy Holiday, TCU commit, is supposed to be going at 9 a.m. Desmond Tisdale is supposed to be going at 10 a.m. I have 10 p.m. accidentally on my thing here. Let me edit that. Tyler Barron is supposed to be going at 1 p.m. Kendall Dennis is supposed to be going at 1 p.m. Ramon Henderson is supposed to be going at 2:30 p.m. Octavius Oxendine, 3:45 p.m. and Morven Joseph at 4. So that's a lot of guys who Tennessee is targeting right now, who all are going to be announcing. Like I said, essentially from 8:30 through 4, it's just going to be kind of a flurry of stuff happening. You have a little bit of a break between kind of 10 and 1 there with Tisdale and Barron. You have a little bit of break if you want to get some lunch and maybe go do a quick workout or something like that. You have time to go do that, but otherwise you've got a lot of guys coming in there all at the same time, or not all at the same time, but all just kind of right back in a row together. But guys, let's kind of go through. We don't have to go through one by one here, but of all these guys, and of course we included in the list I have here on RockyTopInsider.com. I also have one when Tennessee's commits are set to sign. Not all of Tennessee's commits have announced when they're going to sign yet, but the majority of them have at this point. But of all those guys, I think to me the 2 I would circle that I think Tennessee has the least chance with would be Kendall Dennis and Ramon Henderson. Am I wrong in that?
No, I don't think you're wrong in that. I think that's probably. I mean, Henderson's not making it in for the official visit's pretty telling. Yeah. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of assignment there. I think there'll be some mystery about where he's going to go, because he's going to be one of those guys that, hey, he may end up at Washington State by the end of the day. Who knows? He's one of those guys. I think he's a guy that a lot of staffs really like, but then they're not sure where he's going to fit just yet. So who knows where he could end up. The Washington State thing was purely hypothetical. But
I just wonder if for him, if it would be better if he'd kind of waited it out and didn't sign this week.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I really do. I think if Tennessee's going to add another wide receiver, I think it's going to be in the late signing period if they choose to. They'll be in another one of those. They're obviously going to make a spot for Jay Hardy, and like Brandon said, if Darnell Washington he tweeted that he's got his mind made up. If he's going to announce at the Under Armour game, you're probably not going to pour too much more effort into him after that. It's going to be pretty hard to get him back on campus. You might have one more sit down with him. It just depends on how that stuff works out. But I think Tennessee would add a receiver after, and they could have some room to maybe add Henderson. I'm saying he just wants to be at Tennessee, but I think other schools would have the same opportunity for him. But if he finds a place that he's comfortable with, I think he may just go ahead and hop on it. I think the buzz right now is around Notre Dame.
Yeah, I was going to say that's where I've heard some. I've seen he's picked up a few predictions to Notre Dame, and that would be an interesting spot for him. I'm like you guys. I think Ramon might be better off to wait until February and see what opens up. Now, Kendall Dennis is a little more interesting because it looked like Tennessee had a good shot there, and then all of a sudden Clemson comes in, and it looks like he's shut down, locked down, going to Clemson. Everybody else may as well go home. And then over the weekend, it looks like Clemson moved on and decided to go in a different direction. So,
and now it looks like Oklahoma could be getting Kendall Dennis. It's his recruitment's been really weird.
Yeah, and he's a good corner too, and that's another one that you wonder a little bit why Tennessee maybe didn't push harder there. I know you didn't lose Mordecai McDaniel until later in the cycle, but you're still looking for needing that corner. Surprised they didn't push a little more there, but it's sounding like Oklahoma is where he's going to wind up.
Which would be very interesting if he does, just because that'd be a second guy that Tennessee targeted, but it didn't really seem like he was ever a giant priority that ended up going to Oklahoma, obviously, the other one being Reggie Grimes in this class. But those are the two that are announcing tomorrow that I feel the least like Tennessee will get. The two I feel the best about Tennessee getting, the ones I think the best chance of getting, are Jimmy Holiday and Tyler Barron. What, before we break down the rest of the guys on this list, what do you guys think? Are those the two most likely to sign with Tennessee on Wednesday?
I'm going to say no.
Ooh.
I'm going to say the two most likely to sign with Tennessee on Wednesday are Tyler Barron and Reginald Perry. I've worked the Holiday front. I've worked with Jimmy Holiday a lot. I love the name. I've worked on Jimmy Holiday a lot. I've spent a lot of time on that one this week. But this decision's been hard on him. He turned his phone off last night, and I wouldn't expect him to turn it back on until tomorrow. So I think it's probably going to be, some other schools are still tugging at him. I think it's really ultimately Tennessee or TCU. I think Tennessee's got a very great chance and very well could pull this off. He's been very impressed with Jim Chaney, but sometimes the easiest thing to do is stay where you're completely comfortable when things get really tough. So you can't ever rule him out just signing the letter of intent and being done with TCU and not making any bones about it. So it wouldn't surprise me for that to happen. It also wouldn't surprise me for Tennessee to get him. I feel a lot better about Tennessee's chances with Perry than Holiday.
I almost picked Perry over Holiday, but I agree with that. I think Perry's a high likely target too. What about you, Brandon?
The two guys I think I probably feel the best about Tennessee signing, the most confident. I'm going to stay in the Reginald Perry boat. I think that one feels like it's pretty much done. And then I'm going to go off the reservation here a little bit. I know it got crazy over the weekend, but I think Morven Joseph's a done deal. I think Morven is going to be a Vol. I think Florida State made a push. When you looked at his reaction from the visits that he had, whether it was Tennessee, Florida, or Florida State, you can just look at his pictures, look at his tweets, and see what he sent out and see where he had the best time. You can look at all three of those schools and you can see where he has the most immediate need. I know he had been committed to Florida State at one time, and I know Florida State has made a big push, but I think he sees a pathway to play immediately at Tennessee, and with all the respect that Pruitt has from these outside linebackers, I think that's going to be a good spot for him. I believe he's going to land. I think this is a case of go where you're wanted and needed. And he's wanted and needed in Knoxville. I think that one's going to get done.
I think it's interesting you brought him up because I was going to cover him too, and Matt, I'll bring you in on this too. He's a guy that, talk about twists and turns of, I think Tennessee, to me, for him not being a 5-star, he did just pick up his 4th star on 247. I think that's been a long time coming because he's a good prospect, or at least on the composite rankings he got his 4th star. It's not like he's a top 100 type of guy or anything like that, but so it feels weird saying this. I think he's as close to a must-get in this class for Tennessee just because of the need they have at that position, the fact that, B.J. Ojolari moved on, the fact that you missed out on a lot of guys last cycle, like a Justin Igboigbe, I'm struggling to remember, they swung and missed on several kind of edge rushing and pass rushing targets last cycle. You brought in a guy like Roman Harrison, who you feel like you can develop into a good pass rushing target, but that he wasn't an immediate contributor, and I don't know that he'll be ready to do a ton this upcoming season. I think Morven Joseph is very close to being kind of a must get, and I'm curious that Brandon, you said that, because I feel like this is going to be one that I felt like Tennessee for a long time, but then that surprise trip to FSU this weekend, which granted it's not too far for him to go. Now being like Gibson, it's not that far of a trip from there to go visit FSU. That was a school that he committed to once. That's a school. Florida's another school he'd been committed to once. But you saw him put out the graphic of the final 2 of Tennessee and Florida, and then he goes and takes a visit to Florida State. So it's weird. I think Tennessee still gets that one, but it's just the momentum of this one has shifted. It feels like about 20 times here just the past 48 hours.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of momentum shifts in this one. This one has been another recruitment, and I've talked about it a lot. Jeremy Pruitt is absolutely one of the best recruiting head coaches in the country, in my opinion. He was a great recruiter as an assistant coach. Granted, he can't get out on the road as much as his staff does, but behind the scenes, Jeremy Pruitt is a great recruiter. He has made it very evident to Joseph how big of a priority he is. Joseph has conveyed that to me several times. I think the handling of the situation with Pruitt as the head coach, there's still some hard feelings at Florida, and the new head coach at Florida State, I think he kind of falls back to Tennessee with a comfort level, Pruitt making him priority. Like Brandon said, the opportunity to go play early. Now the trick at Florida State is Odell Haggins. If Florida State names Odell Haggins as their head coach, I think they made a home run hire with Mike Norvell. I'm a big Mike Norvell guy. But if Florida State names Odell Haggins the head coach,
we're not having this discussion.
he never decommits, in my opinion. I mean, and I think that had a lot to do with the visit. There's a big respect there, kind of like the Georgia offensive lineman had for Sam Pittman. There's a very big respect there. I think that had a lot to do with the visit. I think Tennessee's able to weather this storm. As of right now, we're recording about 6:00 on Tuesday. I have talked with Joseph today a little bit, not a lot, but I still think Tennessee's probably weathered this storm. But boy, FSU's not going to quit. They were able to get their foot in the door, and they're going to do everything they can before it gets slammed in their face.
And I think
he's absolutely. I miss his part. He's absolutely a must get at this point.
Yeah, I agree. I think he like I said, especially for not being a top 100 guy, it sounds weird saying that, but he is a must get because I think he's talented. You look at him; he's also just. We've talked about this before. He just built like a junior in college already, and he's a senior in high school in his first semester of high school. So he's a guy who I think can come in and make an impact early. I don't know how much you would see him play how much, but I think he's a guy who definitely would make an impact early on Tennessee's defense. Another guy who I think is very interesting to talk about, and that is Len'neth Whitehead. His recruitment's been weird, but I feel like Tennessee is trending in the direction. I think South Carolina's kind of fallen off the map with him quite a bit. I think he signs with Tennessee, and that'll be 8:30 in the morning. What say you, Matt? And then I'll get to you, Brandon. What do you say about Len'neth Whitehead?
My prediction in our Insider article that we put out, I think, on Sunday, so we've had about 4 days for it to be out now, was Tennessee. I still feel Tennessee. I talked with Whitehead yesterday afternoon. This process has wore down on him. Been ready to commit 3 to 4 times to a different school each time. So and there's been a snag, and it's pretty much been out of his control. And it's not in terms of either one of the schools wanting to take him. It's kind of what's went on around the schools. So it was what really was a Tennessee-South Carolina race for a little bit. There's a lot of uncertainty around Will Muschamp. Really, there's some uncertainty around Mike Bobo, I think, too. How long does Bobo want to stay? What's going to happen with Muschamp? Is Bobo just looking for the next, jump? Whitehead's going to play running back in college. That's where he's going to get his first look. Tennessee was the first school to sit him down and talk to him about it. Actually sit him down and talk to him about it, not just, talk back and forth on the phone and, bring it up a little bit. Hey, we can look at you a running back if you want to look at. Tennessee actually sit him down in person, was the first school to do that. He heard the pitch. UCLA came in late, which I don't know how he would fit as a running back in Chip Kelly's system, and I think that's where it comes back to. I think he funnels right back into Tennessee. I think the Vols are going to be the popular choice tomorrow morning at Athens Academy.
What about you, Brandon? Because I'm in agreement here with Matt. I think it's going to be Tennessee, and I would love that because I think Len'neth Whitehead is a really good prospect, really good athlete.
I think it's going to be Tennessee as well. I know that Len'neth's talked about he's been ready to commit a few times. Matt and I, and then you and I as well, Nathaniel, have talked about we've thought he was ready to commit to Tennessee at least 2 times that I know of. This is a kid that I just want to get him on campus. I want to get him on the team and get him on campus. I don't care if he comes in as a running back. I don't care if he comes in as a linebacker. This is a really, really, really good football player. He's a really good young man. He's got a good head on his shoulders. I think he's going to help Tennessee wherever they put him. I know he's going to get a look at running back. I know that's where they're going to try him first. My gut still tells me that he winds up at linebacker before it's all over with. I know what they've told him, but there are 2 things that make me think he winds up at linebacker. Number one, he's too good on defense to not play linebacker. He's too good a linebacker to not end up there. The second part is his head coach is Jeremy Pruitt, and if you can play defense, Jeremy Pruitt is going to try you on defense. Period. The end. So, I think that's where he ends up, but he is absolutely capable of helping a team as a running back. He is a lot shiftier than you would think he would be for a guy his size. He moves really well as a running back, better than I expected him to. It really surprised me when I saw him. So this is a kid, just get him signed. Just get him signed and get him on the team. We'll figure out what to do with him in the spring. This is a really good football player.
In that same vein, talking about guys we thought were going to commit multiple times, what's happened with Desmond Tisdale? Brandon, I know you and I both have talked about multiple occasions on this podcast that we thought from a tweet he sent out that he was going to be committing to Tennessee, that he had committed to Tennessee. Now it seems like the conversation is no longer about Tennessee. Is there what's the intel heading in to his announcement commitment, which is going to be around 10 a.m. on Wednesday?
His final 2 are down to Auburn and Tennessee. This is a coin flip to me. I know Matt feels like it's more trending Auburn's way, and I think it probably has been trending Auburn's way a little bit. The issue has always been, though, Auburn initially wanted him to sign late.
Yeah.
And we had said at first that if he signed early, it was probably beneficial for Tennessee. Now, we don't know how much that's the case yet. At this point, there's also going to be a concern: does Auburn have room for him? That's going to be an issue. Tennessee's prioritized him. Tennessee has not made him a backup plan. Tennessee wants him and wants him, period. And that's been important for him. I think this one's a coin toss. I wouldn't be surprised to see it go either way. The only place that I think we might get a surprise tomorrow is I think Tennessee could surprise people and get Tisdale. Don't be surprised if it's Auburn, but This is not information. This is not educated. I just have a gut feeling with him. I think he may surprise some people tomorrow.
So according to Brandon here, Matt, I kind of can infer your answer. You're thinking Auburn on Tisdale, correct?
Yeah, I think it's Auburn. I just think that's where he's wanted to be all along. Kevin Sherrod did a great job with his recruitment, and I talked about that several times. I think Tennessee still like to add Tisdale to this class, but Kevin Sherrod did a really, really good job. But I think Tennessee, and we talked about Tennessee came in late. Auburn was there. They circled the wagon back, and if you really want to be somewhere, let me put it to you this way: if the pretty girl at the restaurant shoots you down the first night, and you're back there the second night, and you still don't have, the other pretty girl, the girl that you're looking at may not be as pretty, and that other pretty girl circles back around, and your feelings aren't hurt by it, you're probably going to go with her. If the timing was right for her, then you're probably going to go with her. So I think that's where it is. I think his feelings aren't hurt by Auburn circling back around. They pulled the wagon back up after some decommitments, and I think that he's going to be perfectly fine with it. I think he's going to go to Auburn tomorrow.
Tisdale, he will play linebacker, correct? Or is he a guy that could potentially, just like Whitehead, could play running back too? Because I'm looking at stats here from his senior season at Wilcox: 84 tackles, 17 tackles for loss, 5 sacks, 4 forced fumbles, 3 interceptions, 2 that he returned for touchdowns, 3 blocked punts, and then he also rushed the ball for just under 1,000 yards and 17 touchdowns. So is he a guy that's probably going to play linebacker, or is it maybe he play running back?
He's a superstar at Wilcox County. He does it in every way. He's offensive star, defensive star, center fielder on the baseball team, star guard on the basketball team. He does everything. I think he's a guy that you bring in and give him as many opportunities as you can wherever you get him. I think right now, he would get his first look at both schools as a linebacker, though.
Okay, gotcha. Well, the other one I want to get to before we talk about the one in-state kid that's on this list, and that is Octavius Oxendine. I don't feel like Tennessee gets Oxendine. I think if we talked about it already, if you see Reginald Perry, say he's going to be a Vol at 9 o'clock in the morning, I think you can kind of go ahead and say around 4 o'clock, around 3:45 when Oxendine's supposed to be announcing. I think you can kind of figure out from that point, yeah, he's probably not coming. I think Oxendine's probably going to Kentucky if I had to guess. What about you, Matt, and then you, Brandon?
Yeah, I mean, somebody brought this up in one of the comment threads on Twitter the other day, and Tennessee really hasn't been that successful in Kentucky.
No,
they really haven't. They on the field, yeah. They've handled themselves pretty well the last 35 years, but Tennessee really hasn't had and that's not to knock the state of Kentucky. There's not a ton of top-end prospects that come out of Kentucky, but there's some pretty good prospects that come out of Kentucky on a yearly basis, and Tennessee hasn't had a lot of sustained success there. And I'm like you, Nathaniel, I don't think it changes with Oxendine. I think Tennessee did a lot with him. I think he is interested in being a part of what they have to offer on the defensive line, and I think they're able to keep the kid at home.
Do you feel the same way, Brandon?
Yeah, I do. Oxendine is a kid that Tennessee has seemed like they've been kind of hot and cold on this year. There have been times they'd press for him, felt like there were other times they sort of backed off and wanted to look at other options, and they'd come back. Kentucky looks like they've just kind of stayed in the picture. We thought for a long time and felt for a long time that Oxendine was probably a Tennessee lean and that was going to get done, but it looks like Kentucky's been able to stay the course, and they're going to get a guy that I think Tennessee would have really liked to have. Oxendine's a very, very versatile defensive lineman. At 3'10", 315, he is shockingly fast for his size. This is This is a big guy that can really run sideline to sideline. He looks almost like a big linebacker running. I mean, he can get out. He makes a lot of tackles on screen plays and swing passes on wide receivers to the edge. He gets out there and makes that pretty regularly on film, and he did it when I got to see him in person. And he's doing this top end level of ball in Kentucky. So he's playing against pretty big schools when he's doing this. I think Tennessee was also interested in Ox because he was probably the one guy in this class they've looked at that's big enough to play that nose tackle. I think he's probably efficient as an end for Tennessee, but he's big enough to play the nose. This is a guy that Tennessee would have liked to have had that they're missing out on. And I think this is interesting. Tennessee has gone head-to-head on defensive linemen with 3 guys with Kentucky this year. And it was Justin Rogers, Trevon Ribka, and Octavius Oxendine. And it looks like Tennessee's fixing to go 0 for 3 with those guys.
That is bizarre. Does that speak to the Tennessee's defensive line? Tracy Rocker as a recruiter. What does that speak to exactly? Because it's one of those guys is it makes sense made for Rogers. He's in kind of the recruiting ground that Kentucky does, and same thing with Oxendine. He is in Kentucky. Ribka's a guy that's in the state of Tennessee. Is this a huge indictment against Tracy Rocker, or is it just kind of maybe a coincidence, or maybe it's kind of a combination of both?
I don't think.
Go ahead, Brandon.
When you look at the Jay Hardy issue and what happened there, I mean, you got to think it's at least partially this speaks to Rocker and his ability as a recruiter, because he wasn't Amari Thomas's primary recruiter. That was David Johnson.
Yep, that's where I was getting to.
Who was the primary recruiter on Dominic Bailey, Matt? Because I don't know.
Man, that's been so long ago. I'm not really sure.
I'll pull up the 247 really quick.
I don't even know that he really had a primary recruiter at the time that he committed.
247 says it's Tracy Rocker, but that that could be inaccurate. But 247 says it's Tracy Rocker as his primary recruiter.
So
I mean, you look at Jay Hardy, like Brandon said, that wasn't the guy. He wasn't the guy there. He wasn't the guy with Ox. He wasn't really the guy with Ribka, because talking to Ribka leading up to that decision, the guy that was talking to him the most was Derek Ansley. And Justin Rogers was Chris Winkie. And Oxendine's been Niedermeyer. Where I don't know, what primary and secondary are. They recruit these guys by effort, as a group effort a lot, but it doesn't seem like Rocker may be necessarily involved enough, or, I know he's had his defensive line made huge strides this year. I've talked about it a couple times. His defensive line made huge strides, and for 3 weeks they couldn't have come down here and rushed a single A team that's right down the road about 3 miles from me. They couldn't have rushed passer against them. They forced no pass rush, so I don't know if his efforts were focused more towards on-field coaching and trying to scheme and get guys in different ways. I don't know. It worked for Tennessee, but there's been a little bit of a hit on the recruiting trail, at least on some bigger guys that you felt like Tennessee was in a good spot with. Tennessee could still come away with a really good defensive line haul. I mean,
yeah.
Dominic Bailey, Oxendine, and if you're able to add Perry and flip Jay Hardy, that's 4 monsters. That's 4 guys that are 6'2" plus, right between 285 and 300 pounds that can play, and 3 of them that are, top 200 guys. So
yeah, and I think if you get Hardy, you have both Hardy and Amari Thomas. Those are 2, I think, excellent prospects. And I think Dominic Bailey, we've talked about this in the podcast before. He doesn't get talked about enough. I don't think he's a very good prospect. By the way, before we move on here to the last guy who's announcing tomorrow, who isn't already committed to Tennessee, the last time, from what I could find here in the recruiting database stuff, the last time Tennessee got a commit or a recruit out of the state of Kentucky was Channing Fugate back in 2010. So it's been a while, and it wasn't exactly a guy who did a whole lot for Tennessee. Channing Fugate, that's a name I hadn't thought of in, gosh, I don't know, several years at this point, but that was back in the 2010 class when they got him. So it's been
almost a decade.
Yeah, it's been about a decade since Tennessee's gotten someone out of Kentucky in football recruiting. So that's you weren't wrong. I didn't think about that, but like I said, there isn't typically a ton of great talent in the state of Kentucky year in and year out, but Tennessee hasn't really had a whole lot of luck there at the same time. Last guy to talk about here before I want to talk about guys who already committed to Tennessee, and that is Tyler Barron. Brandon, I know you've been on the boat of thinking maybe this isn't as cut and dry as it appears. I still think I'm with you. I kind of have the hesitancy a little bit of Barron because it's taken him so long to get and pull the trigger and everything. But I still think it'll be Tennessee. He's announcing at 1:00, and you guys I think will have live coverage of that. So you all can plug obviously here in a little bit where you're going to be at and all the live coverage y'all are going to have because you're going to be everywhere.
Y'all pray for that.
Tyler Barron's going to be announcing at 1:00. Do you feel it's Tennessee, Brandon? Because I think it will be, barring he's the one that I think could be the biggest surprise and kind of a negative aspect for Tennessee.
He has lulled me into a false sense of security, and I will say at this point, I think it's Tennessee, but I am not going to rest easy until the university announces it. I think it's going to be Tennessee. Everything points to that. That's everything that we've heard. But just like I told you, I've got a gut feeling. I'm not going to rest easy until it's over and done with. And you can tell me all the reasons why I should believe this, everything that points to it, why it makes sense. I understand all that, and I'm not going to feel good about it until it's announced. I still really wonder about him coming into this defense. I don't know where he fits. If Tennessee gets him, they're going to try him as an outside linebacker and an edge rusher. And I just don't know that he can do that. I think he's a much more natural 4-3 end than a 3-4 defensive end or a 3-4 outside linebacker. I think you've got a really, really good physical talent if you can get everything out of it. But he's going to have to learn a new position. He's going to have to learn how to cover for one. So it's going to be interesting. I think some of those 4-3 teams are going to be in his ear up to the end.
Matt, can you make Brandon feel any better about this thing?
No. I think it's Tennessee. Tyler's a hard read. Tyler likes to be a hard read. It's just the way he is. If you saw his Instagram video yesterday, posted an Instagram video of him driving to his house, and his house over here on the right, and people in a house up on the hill that he's never met has a banner hanging off of it that says "Be a VFL, Tyler." So there. And forever it seemed like Tyler Barron was going to be a Vol. If you look back to the spring game, it seemed like, this will be the weekend Barron pops. And then you get coming into the first big visit weekend. This is the weekend that Barron pops. Sometimes those things drag out and they're not good for you. Some teams made it complicated for Tyler. Tyler comes from a football family. His dad's on staff at Tennessee. Tyler has played at 2 premier high schools in the state of Tennessee. He understands the business, the nature of the beast. It's a business. And Kentucky was an offer that came in late for him, but really intrigued him. And like Brandon said, they're a 4-3 team. He moved to Catholic, was playing with his hand in the dirt. Think he liked it. Played a little bit more standing up at Ensworth. Played tight end. Did a lot of different things. Tyler Barron's a really good athlete. I think Tyler Barron can play in space if needed. I think there'll be a little bit of an adjustment, for him. But I think Tyler Barron's a guy that this staff feels that they can, once they get into campus, they can get what they need out of him. And I think he's got a lot of potential to do several different things for Tennessee. If you look at him now, I don't know the stats on how many times that Darrell Taylor dropped back into coverage this year, but it really wasn't a lot, I don't think. I think when you look at Barron, Darrell Taylor's 6'4", 255 pounds. Tyler Barron's 6'4", 252 pounds. How much explosiveness is there? Well, we didn't get to see it this year because he was handing the dirt, and then some of the other games that we were at, teams game planned around him, threw screens around him. It irritated him, it frustrated him a little bit. It's probably a good thing they respect you that way. but moved him down inside to take away some inside zones, and he played pretty well against that. Now, obviously, he's not going to play there in college, but I think the key is just how explosive he can be off the edge. He's at the same size as Taylor, same build. Now let's see what he can do. I think he's probably a little bit more polished than Taylor was coming out of high school. So I think Tennessee's got some real potential there with Tyler Barron on the edge if they're able to land him tomorrow. And I do think that they're able to.
I think they're able to, but it's a weird situation that you wouldn't have expected Tennessee to have to sweat anything out. But I don't know if sweating out's the right phrase for it. But it's not as cut and dry as we all expected, and I think all of us, and I know a lot of Vol fans expected him to be one of the commits who's announcing that he's going to be signing with Tennessee tomorrow, not a guy who you're still not entirely sure where he is. So that kind of covers all of the guys who were major Tennessee targets who are announcing on Wednesday that aren't committed to Tennessee. Tennessee does have a lot of guys already committed in this class, 18 to be exact, and a bulk of them are going to be signing tomorrow. Guys, do we see any surprises from Tennessee's current commits? Do we see anybody who we expected to sign at the early signing period who don't sign on Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday? Or are we expecting? I think Darian Williamson. I think he's not supposed to be signing in the early signing period, but that's not exactly a huge surprise. But is there going to be any kind of surprises that we're maybe want to say, hey, watch out for this, or this could be an issue of Tennessee's current commitments?
If there's going to be one, I think it might. I don't think it's going to happen. I think he's solid. I think he's coming. But if there's going to be fireworks that hurt Tennessee, it'll come from Jimmy Callaway, I think.
Yeah.
That, to me, that's really the only one to watch closely that I think might surprise people and go a different route. But I think Jimmy's pretty solid. But if anybody was going to do it, that's where I would expect to see it.
Yeah, still waiting to see a time and everything on Jimmy. I think he would be the one that could do it. I think Tennessee's loyalty will ultimately win out there. On Williamson, heard back from him on Sunday night. He says he's signing this week. Pretty sure I'll sign this week, was the exact quote. We'll see. I don't think I think he's a blue shirt candidate personally. I don't think that would affect when he signs in any way, though. I think that's more of when you enroll. So I don't know. I don't know that whole situation. That's something I need to look into a little bit more. But yeah, I just happened to think about that when you said that. He says that he's thinking that he'll sign this week. I need to follow up with him on that. But I guess I will as soon as we get off of here. That'd be a good one to add to the list. But I think Callaway's probably your biggest surprise if he does anything. I think I don't know. There's so many things he could do. He has options to pick another school if he wants to. He could pick Kentucky tomorrow. He's been there a lot. Oklahoma, they're still here and there. Georgia, they cooled down. Florida, he's not going to pick them obviously tomorrow, but if he pushes the signing back for him, that's another surprise. About anything Jimmy Callaway does tomorrow is going to be a surprise.
That's a good way of looking at it. Okay, one last thing here. Are we going to see any positive surprises or anything like that for Tennessee? We just ran through all the list of guys who we know are targets for Tennessee. Do we see anything big? Do we see a BJ Ojolari come back to Tennessee? Do we see anything, any kind of out of left field type of thing for Tennessee on the earliest signing period?
I don't think so.
I wouldn't be surprised to see him get Tisdale. I know that's an Auburn lean. I know Auburn has made a lot of headway there, but I wouldn't be stunned.
I think Tisdale would be that would be my one. I'd be stunned if they got. I was joking about BJ Ojolari. That was just a name that came to my head because I would love to see him in orange and white because I think Ojolari is a really good guy, a really good person, and a really good player. But I think he's sticking with LSU. So then Raheem Jarrett pushing things back and saying he's not going to, or I guess not pushing things back, but him saying he's not going to sign. And there is a signing period. I had a bunch of people I had a few people message me and say, hey, look at this. I'm like, that doesn't mean anything for Tennessee. It just doesn't. Raheem Jarrett's not gonna come to the Vols. So I'm with you. I think the biggest surprise you could see would be Desmond Tisdale. It wouldn't be a huge surprise, I don't think, but it would still be. It would surprise me, especially if Tennessee does land, Len'neth, Whitehead, and Reginald Perry already in that morning, and then Jimmy Holiday possibly in the morning too. And then to follow it up with a Desmond Tisdale, that'd be a pretty good start to the day for Tennessee. But guys, you guys have a ton of coverage on that early signing period on Wednesday, so I would be remiss if I didn't let you all kind of plug where you're going to be, where all you're going to have, and what you're going to be doing on Wednesday for the early signing period.
So Jimmy Holiday is the first prospect, I guess, to announce. Now, is that 8 Central or 8?
I took it as 9 Eastern because he lives in Central Time Zone. He said 8 a.m. So I took it as 8 Central. So I'm not sure. I'll be up and ready to go whenever it happens. But I took it as 8 Central Time.
Len'neth Whitehead will be the first. No, I'm sorry. Danico Slaughter will be the first event of the day. We will have live coverage from that. He's just signing his letter of intent in the Roswell Auditorium. We'll have a full interview with him after. Slaughter's not a kid that likes the process of interviews very much, unless you're there in person. He's not big on doing stuff on the phone. And we weren't able to catch him in Knoxville this weekend. So we'll have some more stuff on him, some questions we want to ask him and whatnot. So we'll be there for that one. That's going to start about 7:30. Follow that up with live coverage at Len'neth Whitehead's announcement. Back into Atlanta at 10. We'll probably be a little late to that one. Probably 10:15. Hopefully get there in time for all of y'all to see Harrison Bailey sign the letter of intent, and you all can sigh of relief.
And please stop bugging us about Harrison Bailey flipping, please.
Yeah, my goodness. But hopefully get there in time for y'all to see that. We will have post signing stuff with him, photos, interviews. Probably try to talk to Coach Morgan a little bit about him. Let you guys hear a little bit more about the leadership and trying to get some moments about. I've heard some crazy stories about the toughness of Harrison Bailey. And people talk about Harrison Bailey sitting in the pocket. Yeah, it takes a lot to sit in the pocket and get tagged, but you wouldn't believe what kind of injuries Harrison Bailey sat through in that pocket and got tagged. He's a pretty tough kid. So you're going to try to talk to some people down there, get you guys some interesting stuff on Harrison Bailey, and then wait around. Hopefully Jimmy Callaway's going to sign after lunch. Now, obviously he hasn't released anything, but the hopes is to get back down there and see him sign. And then Tyler Barron and Cooper Mays at 12:30, 12 o'clock, somewhere in the 12 o'clock hour. T. Hodge will have live coverage from all the Knoxville stuff. T. Hodge at 10, and then Reginald Perry at 10 a.m. as well, 10 a.m. Eastern. We'll have live coverage from that event, and then Brandon will have live coverage from Morven Joseph.
Right now, we are scheduled to have live coverage from Morven Joseph when he signs down in Lakeland.
Okay.
That one's depending on how a set of twins arrive is going to impact that one. But right now, we've got somebody there to cover that one.
All right. Yeah. So pretty exciting day of coverage there. A lot of stops, a lot of live videos, a lot of updates. So we'll keep you up to the day. All of our signing day videos and stuff. It's going to be free. We do have an insider chat out that's going to run from tonight all the way through until the end of the day tomorrow. And if there's anything going on Thursday, we'll keep it going then. But that will be just some stuff as we're hearing it, as more stuff breaks and we find out a little bit more about where we think guys are going. You'll get updates there if you elect to join our premium. But that's it. You can check us out at VR2.site and at _VR2_ on Twitter.
Yeah, y'all pray for Matt. He is going to be everywhere tomorrow. We got a lot of guys on the road, but it's about to be a really, really long day for Matt.
Yeah, definitely keep Matt in your thoughts and prayers, and kind of the whole VR2 squad there, because like you said, you all will have people everywhere. They're the place to keep coverage of. That's VR2.site. We'll obviously also we'll link back to their stuff quite a bit on RockyTopInsider.com, and we'll have our own stuff. We'll have a list all day going of who else signed with Tennessee, when they came in, and their ratings and things like that. So we'll have a full list of all Tennessee signees and stuff throughout the day. We'll have commitment pieces. I don't know when I'll be able to do all of the impact report stuff, but I'll get all the impact reports as I can. It may not be until later on, kind of the evening, afternoon time, when I get a lot of them done, because we just, like I said, there's so many guys kind of committing all in a row there, so I don't know if I'll have time to get all of them as soon as it happens, but I'll do as much as I can. We have Jeremy Pruitt talking in the afternoon. I want to say it's at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. I'll have to double check the time, but we'll have Jeremy Pruitt's press conference live as it happens. Tennessee's practicing tomorrow, and he will talk after practice, and it'll be pretty much exclusively about the earlier signing period, and he can comment on the guys who have signed. Obviously, will not be able to comment on guys who have not signed yet or have not committed yet or anything like that, so he will not be able to comment on a few guys probably, but for the most part, he'll be able to talk about Tennessee's early signing period class. And guys, when the dust settles, I may do that night. I may do a live stream on YouTube, on Rocky Top Insider's YouTube, to talk about it, but when the dust settles, once we get kind of a chance to catch our breath or anything like that, I think we should do either on Thursday or Friday, we should do a big recap podcast for everybody and talk about who Tennessee got in the signing period, who they didn't get, and kind of look at their targets remaining and their spots remaining between now and February. So that'll be once all the dust settles and all the chaos kind of clears down and whatnot. Last year you had a couple of guys with Eric Gray and Quavaris Crouch announce after the Wednesday. I don't think Tennessee is going to really have anybody, unless it's a surprise. I don't think Tennessee's really going to have anybody announcing on Thursday or Friday of this early signing period. So I think really most of the stuff will be done for Tennessee on Wednesday. But hopefully you all enjoyed this podcast. Hopefully you got a ton of information. You're ready for Tennessee's early signing period. Be ready. I suggest turning on tweet alerts for VR2 and for the RTI Recruiting Twitter accounts. You can just go to our profiles, RTI Recruiting, and they're @_VR2_. Turn on the tweet notifications. You can have stuff sent directly to your phone as soon as we tweet out stuff about when it happens, whether guys committing, guys signing, or whatever. You'll have it sent directly to your phone as soon as it happens. So I suggest turning those on, and we'll send you guys information as soon as it happens. Signing off for Brandon and Matt, I am Nathaniel. Thank you all for tuning in. This has been another episode of the RTI and VR2 Recruiting Podcast.